So I will start off by telling you a little story about a case. The names of this case might be changed, but we've been dealing with the case. We haven't been dealing with this case. We are just getting updates from our client about the case rather than us actually dealing with the case. Sometimes it works a bit like that. Sometimes the majority of our clients take their guidance from us and we're kind of working with them through the case. But every now and again, we have clients who ask us for our advice and then kind of disappear off the face of the earth. We don't hear from them for 2 weeks. And then they come back and go, we've done all this here. And then we read that and we say, okay, do this or don't do this. And then they go away and we don't hear from them again. And then they turn up and they go, this is where we are now. And then usually we're like, oh my God, no, how did you get there? So yeah, this is one of those cases. It was actually a very serious incident that started this case. It was a Snapchat incident. And honestly, I hate dealing with social media bullying incidents, but my God, Snapchat's the worst. It's the worst because the message is gone. The moment it's been seen, it's gone. The evidence disappears. Why? It's like a recipe for bullying. But yeah, so the evidence disappears, which means you have to chase the evidence by speaking to people who would have seen the evidence, and you need to get those people to talk to you. So that's what this case was about. Some very serious things that was said in a bullying way, and it was sent from a group of young staff members to an older staff member, to a couple who are older staff members who are more senior staff members in the same department. And it said some very, very rude things, very, very rude things that are such rude allegations that the police could be involved. I expect, right from the start, what happened is these young employees were probably all together somewhere smoking and drinking something, thinking, oh, this will be really funny. We'll send this to Susie and her husband and see what happens. They did. They sent this Snapchat and it disappeared. But a number of people saw it because that was not just sent to them. It was sent to a small group of people. The employee, Susie, brought this to her employer's attention. But Susie comes from a background, a strong investigation background. I won't say exactly where, but she comes from a background where she would be normally investigating incidents. And therefore, right from the start, she was reporting this incident and advising her employer that she will be handling this, which is obviously a big no-no. And that's where we started. We started with the question of, she's told me this. Here is the very limited notes of the conversation we had with her and her husband. And she's informed us she will be handling this. So I'm setting up a meeting between these young staff members and this lady who is angry and has been insulted by them. And she's going to handle it. And I'm like, well, if you want to make the problem worse, that's how you would do that. And that is where my teaching comes in, because they didn't do that. They then went with what we suggested, which was a proper grievance process. And Susie was happy for the meeting that had already taken place to be her grievance hearing. She didn't feel she needed another meeting. And they tried to start their investigation, which is where they didn't really get anywhere, because the people who saw this and have to say, yes, such a message was sent and this is what it said, was just unreachable, untouchable, wouldn't talk, wouldn't turn up for work, unavailable for work, just disappeared. Susie then got upset by the time this is taken and took matters into her own hands. She tracked them down and she talked to them. But this is the bit I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about handling serious incidents between employees informally. We've seen a real rise in this with our clients over the last sort of 6 months, where they're either coming to us and saying, this has happened and we're going to handle this informally. We're just going to have a meeting with the two of them and we're just going to sit them down and we're all just going to talk this out. If you are not a professional mediator, I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. If you ask me to do that, I wouldn't do that, because that is, you're putting two people in a room who are upset with each other and you're giving them the opportunity to tell each other they're upset with each other. How do you think that's going to go? How do you think that they're just going to sort that out? They're just going to work it out. It's going to be okay. So we strongly advise against that. We're not saying that you can't deal with things informally, smaller incidents, small confrontations, that kind of thing. But I would always suggest speaking to one, then speaking to the other. And if both parties seem calm and happy, if you really have to, you could speak to them together. I would always avoid that, to be honest. But you can handle it informally, but not by just putting them in a room together and watching the fireworks happen. So, yeah, if you have confrontation, if you have an incident that came from a confrontation between employees, please use the process. The process is there to protect you. I know it feels like work, and I know it feels like a tick box exercise a lot of the time, but it is to protect you. Because if you now just put them in a room together and bang their heads together, as a manager said to me a few weeks ago, I'll just put them in the room and bang their heads together, else we'll sort it out. What you might end up with is a bigger grievance. You might end up in a situation where something similar has happened with a different client about a week ago, and now they're needing to let one of those two people go because they're both refusing to work with each other going forward. So don't be tempted to try and sort it out like they're your two kids and you're putting them down at a table to talk it out and say sorry. It doesn't work that way. It more often than not escalates the problem to a point where you then have an even bigger issue. Whereas if you just started right from the start by saying, okay, we're handling this as a complaint, there is a process that should be followed here. Even for an informal complaint, there is still a process. And we will follow that process as swiftly as possible and as professionally as possible. And therefore, you'll get to a point where you will have an outcome to deliver. And you don't have to escalate the situation between the employees. So I thought I'd tell you that little story and then also tell you to please don't do this. Please don't try and do this. Yeah. So any questions from anyone about this or anything else?
I've got one. Can I just ask about 2P?
Yeah.
I have a situation where we had a member of staff that was employed by an outside source working with the club for 8 years, and then was employed by the club 2 years ago. They've made that person redundant now, and they're claiming that they had 2P rights and things. The contract that she had with the caterer, previous caterer, was a 0-hour contract with no rights and nothing, didn't even have holiday pay, wasn't paid anything, was just paid when she worked. A lot of that time probably was cash in hand and things, although I can't prove that and don't know that. I just wondered whether 2P rights did occur. I think some do, but I'm not clear, I'm not sure on it. So what's your opinion?
My opinion is yes. My opinion is it doesn't matter that she was 0 hours, doesn't matter that she didn't have a contract. The fact that she didn't get holiday or sick pay makes the problem worse, not better. If she worked at the club in some capacity, even if not for the club, but for a provider of some sort, of franchise caterer or something, and then when that person left, transferred, and then was employed by the club, then yes, she has continuous service during that period. So her continuous service would be 8 plus 2.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
But what is she claiming? Because you did transfer her. She was 2P, so what's the problem?
Yeah, I think it's that they've the club, which is my old club, they've made her redundant, and or she's left, and she's claiming that she's owed slightly more than they're offering her. So I think there's a bit of a dispute. I don't know the full story, if I'm being honest, but I believe it's something called a clash of personalities, which is a classic phrase used in HR disputes.
We just don't get on anymore.
Yeah. So, but I can report back to them and let them know that's the situation, that they need to understand that. And if they want some more advice, they'll come to you. Okay?
Yeah, please. Yeah, but they should treat that as a full period of employment.
Okay. I that's what I did say to them. I just wanted to doubly check and make sure. That's brilliant. Thanks.
Okay. No problem. Any other questions? Anyone else want to know anything? No? Are you guys all clear about the SSP changes? I know that Natalie and Lorraine, you were on the call last week when I think we talked about it, or the week before. But do you guys have any questions about the SSP changes that are coming up? No? You're all comfortable with those? Okay. Well, in that case, I'll give you 15 minutes back. Have a lovely day and a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you want a free peace of mind call with us to discuss your policies, handbook, and any burning staff issues in your business, click the link in the description below.